Mr. Hanlon, if you would do the roll call, please. Roll call. Okay, thank you very much. Bill number 10, please.
Bill number 10. Bill 10 amends Article 533, parking meters by authorizing the Allentown Parking Authority to fix, alter, change, and collect parking rates and charges for on-street parking for specific location, dates, and hours to promote and allow for flexibility in the fixing and adjustment of parking rates to promote downtown businesses and the public welfare. To take advantage of technological advancements in the parking industry and, when necessary, account for scheduled events in the downtown business areas of the city, which are better served by on-street facilities, and making adjustments to Article 333 to comply with such change.
Okay, guess we'll open it up to the parking. I guess you guys might want to take the hot seats.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure where you wanted us. Okay. Just remember the meter's running. You know, it's not an event night, so it'll be fun. Free choice.
It's not even that nice, it was free for
All right, I guess what we'll do is I'll open it up to council for questions, unless you want to make any type of presentation other, I mean, you know, pretty much.
I think we gave a significant presentation last time, and I know there's been exchanges that we had at the last meeting and amendments made of it, and at least in the parking authority's opinion, that interaction and those amendments since that time have made it a better ordinance, and we're here to support it as drafted.
Okay, thank you. I'll open it up to council. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to meet with our rules of having to discuss the potential amendments at the committee of the whole meeting, I was just going to bring up what the amendments were and then have an open discussion about that, just so that we meet our rule requirement. So the first was in section 53.03. We had added language stating that the original language was parking restrictions and limitations in any parking meter zone are exempted on Sundays, after which we added when there is no event at the PPL Center to cover so that we were not adding additional parking for non-event days, meters parking for non-event days, excuse me. The second amendment that was discussed and was added is going to be in 533.16, verification of meters. And in section A, language was added that says, provided that city council is notified 30 days in advance of any rate change or as soon as practicable after the scheduling of an event at the PPL Center. Section B of the same 533.16. So we're looking at, I apologize. That was section A, so we are now at section B. City council must be notified 30 days in advance of any rate change, and such change shall be noted at the next available council meeting. All rate changes shall be posted on the Parking Authority's website and posted on their social media. And then the third was a new section in this part, subsection I should say, which is section C. The Parking Authority shall provide council with a written annual report on parking fee structures that will be distributed on a council agenda and referred to an appropriate committee for discussion. The report shall include procedures and rationale related to adjusting such fees. The start times and enforcement times, I should say times, it says enforcement, but enforcement times shall be part of this report. The report shall be sent to the full council for approval by resolution at a regularly scheduled council meeting. And the intention of that is to have one overreaching discussion for the year as to what the rates would be and what the times would be. Those were the amendments that were discussed in general at the last committee of the whole meeting and that have been discussed since then and shown to the Parking Authority as well by Mr. Hanlon. And at the regular council meeting, we just need to make the amendments and second them to move forward with amending them.
Councilman Robinson, may I have a couple comments there?
Sure.
I think we also cleaned up that we cited a specific section as in a couple of the other sections.
Surely, if that's all that I have in here that's marked as an amendment, but if there's anything else, Mr. Zeller, that we can add to that, please.
It's not that it was added, it's in the text, but.
No, but I'm just saying that it's not marked here as an amended piece of text, so that's why I did not have that.
So 53304,
Mhm.
we clarified that language as opposed as maybe amended by ordinance, we specifically said,
Okay,
except as set forth in section 533.17.
and I see that right here.
Same thing in 5308, the exact same language.
Mm-hmm.
And then going to 5317, we also, to address your concern, because NISDA sets the event parking rates,
Correct.
we put a limitation not to exceed $10 per hour on the event nights.
Okay, where is that?
A1.
Oh, I see it right here. Excellent. Perfect. Thank you.
Shows a
And-
couple extra items, yeah.
And I would just like to say for my part in this, a thank you, Mr. Zeller, to you, to the Parking Authority staff as well, to John and to George. This is a very complex issue, and I know it's been worked on for a long time. I know you all have put a lot of work into this. And then to also be as willing as you were to go back and make the adjustments to work on this, it's appreciated. And it's the exact type of cooperation between the city and any type of entity that we hope to see. And I would just like to, for myself, thank you for working with us on this, and thank you for your commitment to trying to make this a better bill.
Thank you, Councilman, we appreciate your efforts as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zeller. Thank you, Mr. President.
Just one question, 53317A. It says, provided the city council is notified 30 days in advance of any rate change, as soon as applicable after the schedule of the PPL center. That's only for, not for parking meters, right?
Well, no, that would be for the meters, but that's the idea of, so if a concert is scheduled halfway through the year, that's obviously going to change those meter rates for that date. So this would ask that they notify us of that change for that date, at least 30 days in advance. And language that says, or as soon as practicable after the scheduling of an event at the PPL Center is, a good example would be some of the district basketball championships that were scheduled in the last minute issue. They wouldn't have 30 days notice. So just as soon as the parking authority is notified of the event, and they know that the garage rates will go up, obviously, then they would notify us, and then also, as we stated in the later section, put on the social media that the rate increases were going into effect for that date. So we'll already, with the annual report, Mr. Green, know what the amounts will be and the start times, but this would just be to say that on April 1st, a concert was added or a game was added at the last minute. We're now advertising that that date will have a change to the parking rates. That's what this section covers.
I just don't want, I want to make sure that we still have the prerogative of changing the rates ourselves, not the parking authority.
Yes, and that would absolutely be the case. This is simply establishing a notification process for when an event is scheduled at PPL for that notification of the date.
Oh, good, thank you.
No, thank you, Mr. Green.
Anybody else? Anybody else up here?
Not a reason, but I would have to wait to the council meeting to make my amendment, is that correct, Mr. Walker?
You can discuss the amendment now. Obviously, any vote on an amendment would take place in the regular council meeting, but you can bring it up and discuss it now.
Okay, and my amendment would be to move, to amend Bill 10 by allowing the parking authority to decrease rates on non-event nights, make no changes to current rates, and retain the penalty of $10 for parking tickets versus 25.
Okay. We don't need a second for that, but we just open it up for discussion.
Just open for discussion.
Any discussion from my colleagues?
Tell me again, what do you want to do again?
It's allowing the parking authority, like in the one section, it says they wanted to reduce the rates on Saturday, to after 5 to be free. Well, this gives them the authority to decrease rates on any non-event nights. And it keeps the parking ticket at $10 versus the proposed 25 at at the meters.
Your proposal gives them the advantage of changing the rates on any night?
On non-event nights.
Non-event.
I thought there was three parts to that.
I thought there were two.
Yeah.
Mike, maybe you can explain that a little bit better than I'm not saying.
Well, thinking what?
It's actually, that amendment is completely embodied in the current text. Because under section 5533.17A2, on days when there are no events at the PPL Center, which matches the amendment, the hour parking rate for Hamilton, is the one we're talking about, may be adjusted down to no charge,
That's what I thought.
and/or hours of operation on-street parking meters reduced. And with regard to the $10 penalty, the $10 penalty is remaining in effect. Item 3 covers the only times we can raise it to 25, which is just on event nights.
Okay, then let me rephrase my amendment. That on event nights, that is to remain at $10.
I mean, I could offer comment on that if you'd like. I mean, that's the problem we deal with. I mean, the concert in the deck is $10. The ticket on the street in front of the PPL Center is $10. Pull up, park, get the $10 ticket.
Ms. Heffler?
I think the reason for this, and I agree with, is the fact that I could come into town, I could park at a meter and have dinner and go to a show and do all of this for exactly $10. That's all it would cost me. While our decks remain empty, and we have to remember that the people that are coming to these concerts are supporting these decks to sustain them. So if I come into town, I'd rather park there and pay $10. I'll pay the $10 ticket. But you're tying up, you heard the merchants, you heard what they want. They want to be able to have access, people have access. Now, on the other hand, I'm not going to the concert, but I wanted to go to Brewworks. I have no parking because somebody came from Scranton, paid $10, and they're sitting there for the rest of the night. So I think it's right to charge them, if they're getting charged, 27
25 for a event.
$25. It's a different story. They will then be using our parking decks and not tying up our meters for $10. I'll pay a $10 fine to sit there for 5 hours. Thank you.
Somebody get a ticket, they're gonna drop it off to you.
I think that's a good rationale what you explained. I believe that, and I'm an advocate of making sure that people, the local, have an opportunity to park in there for a short amount of time. But if they gonna stay there for a longer time, it's better for them to park in the garage, and that's the way it's always been. And I think the first hour, how much do we agree? Wasn't it like $1 to $2 the first hour?
The central zone is $2 an hour. We have two for the second, and then we
The
would have.
first one is 1 and 2 for the second, right?
No, it's two. It's the immediate on Hamilton Street is two. And
In the core area,
Mhm.
it's $2 an hour. Everything else in the city is $1 an hour.
$1, yeah, but they're saying 2.
In the core area, yes.
I think the confusion perhaps is coming from, on event nights, it will stay $2 for the first hour, $2 for the second, go for the third. But on non-event nights, there is discussion not of potentially ending the parking at 5, also of making the first hour $1 was something that Mr. Morgan had brought up as a possibility. I think that's where the confusion is coming from in this sense. So on non-event nights, there's the possibility of it being $1 for the first hour, but on event nights, it will still be $2, and then go up to the deck rate for the third hour, and potentially fourth or moving on.
What I remember suggesting was that it would be non-event night to be $1, okay? Now, the event night, is $2 for the first hour, so if they stay 2 hours, it's $4?
correct, on event nights. It's the way it currently is right
That's the
now.
way it is currently, yes.
Right now.
I mean, it is, right. That's the way it is right now.
And the third hour would be 10. That way you're incentive. So if you wanna stay there for 3 hours during your event, you'd pay 14.
Yeah.
Or you'd save by going to the deck. You'd be less money in the deck.
But then someone going to the Brew Works or going to the Bay Leaf is only going to pay what they would normally pay to park on the street. That's the goal of this, is that to keep it normalized for people who are not attending events at the PPL Center. But if you're going to be there for a longer period of time, we charge you more than what you would be charging the decks to encourage people to funnel in their decks.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, yes, but I'm thinking if somebody want to go over to Brewworks, let's say, since we're using Brewworks, and they wanna have dinner, how long do you think it's gonna take him to have dinner? Do you think it'll take him more than 2 hours?
Well, for the sake of the Brew Works, since restaurants live and die on table turns, I hope it wouldn't take more than 2 hours.
Yeah, I mean, that's your experience, you wouldn't take more than 2 hours to have dinner anyway.
So they'll see no impact whatsoever.
And then
And your flexible thought is, I mean, one of the things we gotta look at, I mean, our first enactment, the first notice you're gonna get is after 5 o'clock, Monday through Fridays, parking is free downtown. That's the first notice that we're gonna give to the city council on non-amendments.
So when you're saying when somebody comes in for dinner in the evening, well, if it's in the evening, you might not even be on there. After 5 o'clock, it's free. So,
So the question is that gonna significantly impact the revenue so much that we have to think about your model of maybe we do it $1 for the first hour, $2 for the second hour. So a different type of model, at least flexibility, that we wanna walk the balance between able to support the merchants downtown, and just the city generally, and encourage people to park in the actual event.
I mean, I agree, I'm in favor of that.
Yeah, this ordinance was always written with, this ordinance was always
Okay,
written.
for those of you coming in the council chambers, we have a meeting going on here, if we can just order in quietly. Thank you.
The heart of this change is the 300 days when there's not events. That's the heart of the change, the
Yes.
reason for the change.
Yes. I think it's a fair change, and I've been looking forward to seeing, free parking if we can, after 12 o'clock, so we can bring more people down.
I'll be very happy to sign that notice as a city downtown resident.
May I make another point?
Hold on one second. Just hold it.
I'm just hoping that if this, goes through all these changes, because it is kind of confusing, I just hope that we do a really good job informing, the community. Because the reality is that we're here at the dais, but I am confused at this point. So I can imagine the public. So I am really hoping that anything that happens, we'll do a really good job informing, the public about these changes. Because, it will not be fair to get a $25 ticket, not knowing why,
It's a lot, when you're looking at the whole package, the citizen's not gonna have to know the whole package. We just have to know, right, that they're gonna get a town in the kiosk, what they're gonna do. To fully understand all of this, it's more than a need for the night that you're coming to town. When you come to town, the kiosk will say it's $1 an hour, $2 an hour, 3 hour max, that's all they want you to know, it's gonna be free after 5, Saturdays might be $1, $1. It is a lot to absorb.
It
But for that customer coming in, at that moment in time when the parking, first of all, we'll have social media, there'll be issues.
Okay, because it is a lot to observe, without any doubt, it is.
Well, this whole ordinance is, just you look at it, yeah, absolutely.
Ms. Apple, go ahead.
Thank you.
Ms. Soto, I agree with you, it's confusing for us, but I agree that the public is not going to be, when they go to the kiosk, it's going to say free. It's going to say $1.
You know what, I hope so, because the reality is, we know that we're dealing with, the population that we're dealing with,
It's going to be a lot different with the kiosks there. And also, I was impressed with when Santo when he spoke with merchants, the fact that it would be free after 5 o'clock, especially in the summer months. He said a lot of merchants were thinking, or restaurants, and merchants thinking of staying open later, which gives more people downtown and the merchants more. So I think that the whole idea, especially the concept of the free parking after 5 o'clock is really great. And I think the confusion, it's gonna be a lot easier for them than for us to try to understand what's going on.
And Seth, I do understand that we need to generate money and that, you know, we need to free more parking. But the reality is, you know, my concern is how are we gonna be able to educate, you know, the public, you know what I mean? So that everyone is in the same page. That's all that's my main concern. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fuller. And Ms. Alpha. One quick question. When we had this bill 2 weeks ago, or thereabouts, there was a lot of discussion about the kiosks. Now everything's about the meters.
Well, they're one and the same.
They're one and- right, they're one and the same.
Regulation,
We might want to think about updating this once we get the kiosks in place, so I don't know.
Well, we're still gonna have single space meters and kiosks, I mean, one day we'll all have kiosks, so.
Right. Let me ask you a question. On any of the meters in town, can somebody, if they're sitting in Brewworks or some other restaurant downtown, can they add time to the meter from their phone?
Yes.
And they will be able to on the kiosk
Yes,
also?
we won't lose that, yes.
Okay.
One
That's agreed.
one last thing in regards to the Warner Street issue that PC Girl has spoken about last time. What have we figured out in that? Have you done any changes? Have you been able to take into account some of the questions that they had?
I think, you know, Ms. Gerlach brought up some important points, but starting to go into, different issues with the residential parking permits. And so when we get through this, the fact of the matter is, in the particular areas that Ms. Gerlach, was speaking about, she will be unaffected because the kiosks are not gonna be in that area anytime in the near future. So,
In the, I think she's talking about the area, not only block of, Warner.
yeah, we're not gonna have kiosks in the 900 block of Walnut Street for anytime soon, for a couple of years.
So, but will you have the parking meters?
Parking meters will be there, yes, but we can't, because the single space meters, we can't alter their rates, they cannot be changed.
Well, the meters there are, how much are the meters there? I think, aren't they like $2 an hour now?
They're $1.
So you,
That's not gonna change, and we're not gonna be able to vary them.
Then-
Now, we'll be able to say, we'll be able to program them at least to turn off after 5, or we just won't enforce. We won't
I'm not gonna
enforce.
have an officer out enforcing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So that would be on social media, but you're not gonna be able to walk up to the meter and start flashing free like the kiosk will.
okay. So after 5, you will be on the first floor? Or
Yeah.
it will be free?
Yeah, well, actually, in all the areas Ms. Gerlach was speaking about, it'll be better because there'll be free parking. And since we can't vary those rates to the kiosks, we're not gonna give out $25 tickets for those.
And that's,
Yeah.
that's, until, when do you start, ticketing? 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock? In the morning?
A regular enforcement starts at 8 o'clock, we get ready at 7 for street cleaning.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else?
Yes,
Mr. Robinson.
from our discussion, one or two things that have come up. First and foremost, it's a question for you, Mr. Holbert. And the amendment that we're doing for section 533-17C, where we're adding the report section, is there any necessity that we would have to add something, language about the first report? Or is that something where we could just accept when they're available to give us the first report this year, that we can accept it when they're ready to do that?
That can be done, or it could be, a date could be added, it's really up to council.
Okay, I just didn't know if it needed to be added or not, I was just thinking on that. I don't know if that's something perhaps, Mr. Zeller, if, you know, when you're about ready to have the kiosks installed, if you'd be able to present that report to council, since we weren't able to do it earlier in the year, obviously, because of the change.
Yeah, we had some other discussions too about some of the policies in place and
Sure.
what we're gonna do for the public.
Great,
So we've got the framework already.
perfect, thank you very much. A question for you I have is, the meters that are currently in place downtown, which are more advanced than a lot of meters we have in other parts of the city because they can take credit card payments, are we looking to move those meters into other zones in the city then?
No, we won't be doing that.
Okay.
They're reaching their, believe it or not, their life expectancy.
Okay.
Because of the 3G, 4G that they run on, it's gonna be switching out, they won't be functional.
Okay, I was just curious if, since they were able to take credit card payments, if we could move them somewhere else. That was my only question on that one. And that is the extent of the questions that I had from the discussion that we dealt with. So thank you very much, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, are the kiosks gonna be able to, handle the 5G once they come on the area?
Yeah, it's a separate unit, so even 6G, 7G, they can be upgraded. The newest next that we have is wired hard to, it can't be changed.
And the meters, the meters, so you would be, changing those.
Yeah, we would have been in a major, capital crisis from replacing these meters in the next year.
Do you have to replace those meters, or can you just put kiosks all over the city? I mean,
That's what we plan to do. The first one's being replaced with TV, so once we get the credit, the kiosks be going there primarily first, so we'll get them taken care of, but we plan on kiosks throughout the city. All the meters will be.
not for all the city, only where the meters are now.
But all throughout the city where the meters are, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And out in front of City Hall, we're gonna put them out there at our own cost.
That would be
And
one
you're
of
not
the first
gonna-
ones. Yeah, there's 13 spaces in that, one kiosk, all the meters.
Well, there are some, so are you gonna get rid of the, people management, the red one, or how is that gonna work then?
Yeah, we'll designate the separate for two kiosks.
Okay.
And there's a handicap out there also, so remaining.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll get you Mr. Green's address offline so you can put a kiosk. Anybody else from council?
You're my neighbor, too. You get it, too.
Anybody else from council? Anybody from the public on bill number, what number is that?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Glenn Keller, 2726 Furnace Street. When I spoke with you last month, I presented some concerns about the technology and reliability and the conditions in the government deck right across from City Hall. Unfortunately, tonight, the technical conditions in the government deck are even worse than when I talked with you last month. So what I'd like to say is, y'all have the right to set the parking rates however y'all want. I have no criticism on that whatsoever. Other people can talk about that. But when we're introducing these kiosks that replace old reliable parking meters in maybe some cases, you know, if we're going to be maintaining them in the same way that we're maintaining the machines on the government deck, then I'd like to know what kind of guarantees are going to be available to ensure that those machines really do work and they don't frustrate large numbers of the public. Now, as I said last month, with the trouble alarms that I've observed personally, just on the frequency that I come to city council meetings, extrapolate that out to how many trouble alarms in the security system there are at any given time throughout the days or months. Now, if the parking authority is representing to the agencies who have vehicles parked there, does that represent a concern? Also, as I mentioned, that the government deck is sort of a flagship deck for people coming and dealing with the city. Well, last month, it was one out of the two machines that had no receipt available. For a business traveler who's making a presentation in City Hall and is forming an impression of what to do in interacting with the city, whether it be for development or other means that he has to deal with the city, or she, sorry. What kind of impression do they come away with when they can't walk out with a receipt for their travel claim? And tonight, both machines report no receipt available. And as far as payment, last month I said about the coins. Well, just as anecdotal evidence, one time I came onto the parking deck and a woman and someone who I believe was her daughter with her was trying to feed coins into the machine and appearing rather frustrated with the evolution. And I directed her down to the other machine on the second floor. Another time, more recently, someone from St. Luke's Hospital came and gave a presentation to City Council about some assistance or cooperation they're having with the city. And when she was out there trying to pay at the fourth floor station, she was having difficulties, and again, I directed her down to the second floor one, and she followed me down the steps to work the machine. But tonight, the call stations or the call boxes are not operating. May I continue, sir?
I'll give you a little bit more, okay? Have a full house tonight.
Okay, the call stations are not operating. No receipt available on both of the machines. One of the pay machines has a note stamp, taped to it saying that the machine works. And they should take the ticket, it's just that the call box isn't working. The other call box, or sorry, the other pay station up on the 4th floor has no notes taped to it whatsoever, so I don't know what the status of that is. And when you get to the gates, both gates are open in the air, and all the signs say that are taped to both machines are pull ahead. So I'm trying to figure out when I leave tonight, do I put my ticket in the machine? Or do I just obey the sign literally and just drive ahead without putting the ticket in? So we've got mechanical factors, we've got human factors involved, and I would hope that the kiosks perform better than what I'm observing in the government tenders. Thank you.
Thank you, George. George, maybe address that quickly. I mean, I
Sure.
haven't heard of so many problems with this app.
Yeah, the reason why the call boxes aren't working, there's a phone number on the call box, it's actually an on-call manager, so get the phone call. But the call box, we switch the phone number and the phone line for important instructions, so we're at their mercy to get important instructions. So when we push the button, we have to call down to the manager. We actually have the manager call the phone number on the machine. So there's no issue with leaving, the gates are up, so we can send that.
Okay,
That's on us, I mean, if there's any revenue being lost, that's on us as a customer's order.
right. Okay, so it's free tonight.
Free up to 5. There you go.
Okay. All right.
That's fair.
Anybody else from the public? Seeing nobody. Motion?
I make a motion to move, but I make a motion to move it forward favorably to full council.
I will second Mr. Greedy's motion also, in favor.
Okay, all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed?
Okay. Mr. Zulo's opposed. Okay. We're gonna adjourn this meeting, that will be on the council, and we're gonna immediately start with our council meeting. Yeah. All right, we're gonna stand, we're gonna ask for a moment of silence. We've had some bad weather, but not as bad as they've had it in the south, and as we all know, and we've all seen that there's a family that was devastated, at least half a dozen members of the family were lost in a tornado down there, so if we can have a moment of silence for them, and then we remain standing for the first place of the night.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, if we have a roll call, please.
Here.
Present.
Mr. Greedy. Present. Mona. Here. Zuko. Here. Mr. Robinson. Present. Mr. McLean.
I'm here.
Everybody here.
Thank you very much. All right, we're gonna open it up to courtesy of the floor. Courtesy of the floor is for any agenda item that is not, any item that's not on the agenda for tonight. If you represent an organization, you'll get 5 minutes. If you're an individual, 3 minutes. Please address council, and we ask that you be civil. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. My concern, I'm not here about the 27% tax increase that the mayor vetoed. It showed you guys were right by passing that bill to reduce our taxes because of Mr. Hartzell's report at the end of the month showed that there were more revenue and expenditures than your vote was substantially that we've citizens how much of the tax decrease at 27%. But what I'm here is a bond issue. I attended that meeting where you guys passed that bond issue for $12 million. No one came out and said what the bond rating was. If the bond rating is an A or a B plus, it's gonna change the industry, Mr. Chairman. I think the administration should have came to you guys and told you guys what the bond rating was. None of you question administration. And this thing would be costly, Mr. Chairman. This cannot end up what this was presented to you guys that night. And I think before we start passing bond issues, the administration should provide you guys with a bond rating. When I was on city council, and who you with Mr. Rudy, we never pass a bond issue unless we knew what a bond rating was. I see there's less accountability going on. I see that on the agenda, because we're passing bills from 2018 monies. And the voter of Allentown in 1996 trudged to the polls and it rained, that mentioned that no money should be spent once it slacks. You're just spending money that slacks. I can't believe the accountability you guys are presenting. We have to start getting back to accountability. That could be affecting our bond rating, Mr. Hartzell. What is the bond rating?
Well, we'll let Mr. Hartzell answer, but I believe there were parameters in that bond refinancing, correct?
Council President, thank you very much. I want to explain how this works. We've already had a due diligence call with Standard & Poor's over the last few days ago, in which we explained the specifics that were accompanying not only the bond issue, but the current economic situation, or the current situation of our finances in the city. The public offering statement is nearing completion at this point. And after that statement is completed, then Standard & Poor's makes an internal decision as to what the bond rating is going to be. And currently, our overall rating on our existing debt as a whole in the city, we are rated A by Standard & Poor's, which is a mid-grade A rating. We are rated A3 by Moody's, which is a lower A rating. We have negative outlooks in both cases for the reasons that have happened over the last year or two. I am not anticipating that there will be any change to those ratings as a result of the S&P decision when it comes out, which is pending very shortly. I also would say that the interest rates that were presented to you when we had this discussion a week and a half ago were the best estimates from our financial advisor and from our underwriters at this stage as to what we should be able to expect in the market, given the ratings that we currently have and that we're expecting on the bonds. So there's no attempt here to be without transparency. The order is the bond rating is still to come. And when we know what our overall rating is on our basic debt, our expectation is that we will be able to hold that rating when the issuance is made the determination is made by S&P in a few days.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hartzell.
So what Mr. Hartzell saying, he's hoping that it's gonna be an A. Could be a B plus, Mr. Hartzell, right?
We're all hoping.
We're all hoping, it could be a junk bond, could be a junk bond.
Thank you. Anybody else courtesy of the floor? Seeing nobody, can we approval of minutes for February 13th?
Ms. Sapa? Yes. Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Moda?
Yes.
Mr. Zuko?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Minutes are
Thank you very much. Any old business? Seeing none. Communications, I know we have one here. Mr. White? This is a proclamation for the Order of DeMolay.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council, members of the administration. It's my pleasure to be here again this year. And as I mentioned last year, about a year from today, this year is the 200th anniversary of the founding of DeMolay International in Kansas City, Missouri. And DeMolay in Allentown has been here since 1926. And along with me tonight are two of our young men, as well as another one of our advisors. I would like to introduce I'm the chairman of the advisory council. We have 14 members who are adults and parents that lead these young men. This is Mr. Garrett Rhodes, who is basically the youth advisor that supervises the young men. I basically run the adults, and let him introduce the two young men.
Thank you very much for your time, and having been to many of these meetings in different municipalities, I will follow the 3 Bs of public speaking: be brief, be bright, and be gone, because apparently you're going to have a lot of commentary tonight. But the Order of DeMolay at Allentown chapter is something I got involved in a few years ago when my son joined. And what I've seen that it does for young men aged 12 to 21 is it provides leadership skills. They have monthly stated meetings similar to yours with business and committee reports. They work in the community, they do charitable fundraising, and we're always looking for opportunities to serve the community. So if you as a council know any young men who might benefit from our services, we're wide open, we're actively looking to diversify our membership. So we'd love to hear from folks in the city who have young men, and we do have a program for boys age 9 to 11 called the Squires Program, and all of our meetings are at the Allentown Temple in the 1500 block of Linden Street. So without further ado, I'd like to thank you for your time and introduce our Master Counselor, Mr. Daniel Hollenbaugh, and our Senior Deacon, Jonathan Rhodes.
Thank you. So as Dad Rhodes had mentioned, DMLA has been an organization since March 24th, 1919, which is why we are excited to celebrate our 100th anniversary on March 24th, which leads to the question as to why we're here. We're here to attain a civic proclamation to recognize the work that we have done these past years, and we are striving to continue the good work that we are doing for the city of Allentown. Like we had said before, we're looking for more members. So I think that if the city of Allentown would grant us that proclamation, it would be a great gesture for all of the work that we've done, whether it be through our charities or the community service we've provided in the past. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I just happen to have it right here. And it reads, resolved by the City Council of the City of Allentown that, whereas Order of DMLA is a character-building organization for young men between the ages of 12 and 21 years old, and whereas these young men are seeking to prepare themselves to become better citizens and leaders for tomorrow, and whereas Order of DMLA was founded in 1919 in Kansas City, Missouri, and the Allentown chapter was formed in 1926, and whereas Order of DMLA celebrates DMLA Month in March and will be marking its 100th anniversary of its founding, and whereas Order of DMLA helps develop those traits of character which have strengthened good men of all ages, and whereas Order of DMLA has carried out the aforementioned goals for 100 years through programs of athletic competition, social activity, civic service, and charitable projects, and one more, whereas Order of DMLA exemplifies to all citizens here and everywhere their many activities and to tender recognition to their millions of senior DMLAs. Now therefore, Allentown City Council does hereby celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Order of DMLA on Wednesday, March 6, 2019, and proclaims March 2019 as DMLA Month, and is signed by all members of City Council.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, members of council. We appreciate it. You got a photo opportunity. Wait, you have to stay there. One more second, so I can get all the members of council in. Thank you again.
Watch your step, man.
I got it.
You can show the control or something.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate it. All right, reports from committees. Budget and Finance, Mr. Grady.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Budget and Finance Committee met on February 27th. The next meeting is tentatively scheduled for March 27th. Most likely it's 6 o'clock.
Thank you very much. Community and Economic Development, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Community and Economic Development Committee is scheduled to meet on March 13th at 6 p.m. to receive input from the public and the Synergy Group, and I believe we have an item on the agenda this evening that will be referred to Community and Economic Development that will be discussed at that time.
Thank you very much. Human Resources Administration and Appointments, Ms. Appa.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has not met since the last council meeting. There are no future meetings scheduled.
Thank you very much. Parks and Recreation, Ms. Moda.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee met on February 27th. We're looking at the scheduling of meeting possibly on March 13th. to review the grants.
Thank you very much. Public Works, Mr. Zuko. I'm sorry, Public Safety, Mr. Hendricks.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has not met since last meeting. No future meetings are scheduled at this time.
Thank you very much. Now, Public Works, Mr. Zuko.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee met this evening. There are no future meetings scheduled at this time. A couple things from tonight will be discussed later on.
Thank you very much. Rules Chambers, Intergovernmental Relations and Strategy, that's me. We have not met and we have no meetings scheduled. Mr. Glazer, good to see you here.
Thank you,
Now
Mr.
for controllers report.
Boy, I had 5 or 6 that I was gonna give at the canceled meeting, plus another 5 or 6. But, in the interest of time, I'm just gonna do 2.
Hang on 1 second. Mr. Hamlin, would you start the 5-minute
In the interest of time, I'm just gonna do 2 things tonight. And, we'll, at the next meeting, we'll play catch up. I have a quarterly report from the pension funds, which I'd like to do to inform council and the public. It's for the quarter that ended 12/31/18. And I think that I sent it to you earlier today, Mr. Hanlon. You have an opportunity to forward it to council?
Yes.
Okay. Look, in short, in the fourth quarter, we made all the MMO payments we needed to make to the police fund, the fire fund, and O&E. We know that the stock market was pretty brutal in the fourth quarter, and the funds did lose some value. However, by the end of January of 2019, and that performance will be reflected in the next report, the majority of those losses had been made up. So, 2018 didn't finish on a strong note, 2019 started on a strong note, and we hope that continues. The only thing I would add is that the pension funds diversified their investments a little bit. Last year, we invested in some quality real estate funds, and those investments performed very well in the fourth quarter. So that was a bright spot, and we expect it to continue to perform strong. If you guys have any questions from the copies that Mr. Hanlon sent you, just email me and I'll get back to you. I would also like to report on an accounts payable weekly check review. This is for January 5th through February 1st. And during that time period, we reviewed 554 checks with a value of a little bit over $3.6 million. We did 13 wires of a value of a little bit over $1 million. We identified one invoice for $17,890, which was paid on an expired PO and contract. There were 2 open purchase orders. The first purchase order should have been closed, and the second should have been active during the contract extension period. Additionally, the contract number was not entered for each of the invoices, so there was not an accurate sum of expenses calculated against the contract. While the contract does have a provision for extension, the controller's office did not have a record of said extension. The department was advised, and they are currently putting in place measures to increase staff training and fix the procedural issues. Additionally, and this will come before council in the near future, they're requesting additional funds for that contract. And I think you'll probably approve that at the next contract meeting. I think contract committee has already done that. We found one vendor invoice that could not be compared to the contract. The way the invoice was billed, you couldn't compare the charges on what the contract charges were supposed to be. The department worked with the vendor to provide an accurate breakdown of charges, and they were in compliance with the contract. And they will work to make sure that those invoices in the future are easier to decipher. There are 2 wires that were untimely posted to Eden, and the department was advised, and they will take precautions to make sure that those wires are processed in a more timely manner. 2 invoices that were charged improper expense accounts, and the departments in question will correct those. And this is something we've been working on for a long time, using the proper expense accounts. And a year ago, we might have 5 or 10 in a month. Now we're down to 2, so I really commend the departments for making great strides in getting everything in the right place. In the month of January, there were $166 in late fees. Now, this is always a concern to us because we like our bills to be paid in a timely manner because, late fees are just not productive money spent. I would note that in the month of February, which I'll report on in 2 weeks, there were $1,600 worth of late fees. And I think that we all need to figure out a better way to pay bills in a more timely manner at the end of the year. And that's typically where this happens. There's no reason. So between the 2 months, it's almost $1,900. It's money that we could use more productively paying bills as opposed to paying late fees. And perhaps we can work on some strategies to take care of that problem. Additionally, in that month, there were 31 invoices that were paid late. Now, not every invoice that's paid late incurs a late fee. Once again, all the departments were advised, and they all promised to do better. In some instances, it was the vendor's fault. And that's really it, Mr. President. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Glazer. Administration report, Mr. McMahon.
I've got nothing new.
That's why we like your reports.
Otherwise, it's gonna be really difficult.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. President.
Sure. Mr.
Point of order. Mr. President, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules. Reason being, our county executive, Phillips Armstrong, is making a tour to all the municipalities in the county to speak to all the legislative bodies, and he was unfortunately not able to make it in time for courtesy of the floor. But I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules to allow him to address the body.
I'll second the motion.
A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Armstrong, welcome.
Well, thank you. I didn't mean you to suspend the rules, but I do appreciate that I'm just one of the 25 municipalities that I want to get to this year and let you know that the one thing we have been working very closely with the city of Allentown, and it is definitely showing in, for example, the 911 center, it smooth transition, and it was only because of the cooperation that we had between Allentown and the county, and how much we really appreciate working with the city and all the things you do. And basically what I've been saying to all the municipalities, if you have any questions for the county, or something that's a particular thing that, every night I get some little thing that Fountain Hill needed a letter for support for a project, little things like that. But if you have anything, while I'm here, I'd be glad to answer.
Oh, we have a lot.
We can always use money.
Well, yeah.
We have a lot of streets that need to be paved.
Well,
police officers to hire.
You're sorry about
Housing issues to be had.
Well, last week I was in Washington for a couple of days, and I didn't get any good news about any funding coming our way. None. So I wish I had a nice thing to say, but just nothing there right now.
We feel the pain too. So
Yes,
disagree.
we all are.
Mr. Andrew, what kind of things do you think we can ask them, you may be able to provide us, to make it more realistic?
Well, we are working, hopefully, we just opened up the mental health center that instead of putting people in jail that shouldn't be in jail, we're now gonna have them housed. We opened up a house under our mental health unit. Child welfare is working to its limits. We just finished, and part of Allentown was with us on the 100-day challenge on the homeless. And we went into the 100-day challenge with realistic goals. We certainly didn't solve the problem of homelessness, but we did help at least 53 homeless people get into the right departments for the right help. So we're happy that it's a step in the right direction, and we set a model up that hopefully now in the future, instead of different agencies working in silos, that we're now putting them all together. So those are some of the things hopefully we can help out with.
Well, I truly appreciate that. And first of all, I want to thank you for coming over and speaking to us on that matter. And all the two other municipalities as well. But You hit the nail on the head. That was my number one target, working with the homeless in the city and working with, human services. I always thought that, although we have a responsibility as a city, the county has a major responsibility because you control the human services department. And I think it's a human service issue. And making sure that we have, the whereabouts, where and the support for the homeless in our city is probably one of the issues that we have been struggling for the last almost decades and have not been able to do something. So I truly appreciate making sure that we develop something, work together on taking care of the homeless in the city.
Well, just today with the Phantoms Charity, we packed 103 plastic bags for genuine homeless people in Lehigh Valley. Now that's Lehigh County and Northampton County. These are people who refuse to go to shelters, that they just want to live. And we packed things like tarps, toothpaste, deodorant, socks, necessities, rope to tie things down to try to help these people. But I think another great example of cooperation is the city and the county got together and helped funded the YMCA warming station. So, and that was, again, great cooperation between the city and the county and an anonymous.
You know, the cold blue, tonight's gonna be a cold night. It's gonna be
Yes.
below 20 degrees. And is there a temperature that you call cold blue in this city, or, I mean, not in the city, in the county?
I don't know that answer. I can't say there is or there isn't. I really just don't know that answer.
So I think it's something that we should look into.
It is, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Armstrong, in fact, just, the Blue Guardian program too was a perfect example of working with, I mean, we've all heard about this opioid crisis, and the Blue Guardian program is a collaborative effort with the county and all the municipal police departments, but obviously it affects now.
Lane Turner and Jim Martin were major working together on that.
Yeah, great program for.
It's getting over 50%. Not everybody that, but anything that's going 50% is good right now.
Hope.
Yes, there's hope.
Mr. Armstrong, I would like to congratulate you for the 100-day challenge. Promise Neighborhood, the organization that I work for, they were also part of that. And we had interns working on the 100-day challenge, and they were really impressed with all the things that was done. There's many things that needs to be done still for the homeless, but the reality is that it is working.
It's a start, right?
It's the beginning.
Yes.
It is the beginning.
And that whole thing was funded without taxpayers' money too. That was, another important thing, that the people came together and did these
And
things.
different organizations.
Yes.
A lot of nonprofits, like I was saying before, Promise Neighborhood was one of them.
Definitely.
And they're here, by the way.
Yeah.
Promise Neighborhood? Yes, they're here, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you. Sorry I was a little late, had
Sorry.
a couple of places at once, so.
Actually, courtesy the floor went much faster than.
Yeah.
And I'd like to invite anybody in the audience, if you want to go to county commissioners meetings. Okay, we're gonna move on. Your appointments, Ms. Otto.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. We have 3 tonight. We have, for the Allentown Housing Authority, Zachary Matthews. His term will go till 2022. Do I have any comments from my colleagues on the appointment of Zachary Matthews? Seeing none, anything from the public? Did you want to say something?
No, I'm just giving you the thumbs up.
Okay. Mr. Hammond, can we have a vote, please?
Okay, on the appointment of Mr. Matthews, Ms. Appa,
Yes.
Mr. Grady,
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks,
Yes.
Ms. Moda,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Zuko,
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Zachary Matthews, are you here?
I am.
You want to come up and say a few words?
Sure. I'll keep it brief. Just, I thank Mayor O'Connell, I believe he's here for the appointment, and I thank all of council for approving. I'm excited and look forward to getting to work.
Congratulations. All right, the second one we have,
Just to congratulate, Mr. Matthews, but I also want to say that we just had a meeting under the council, I represent the council in the housing authority, and, we just had a meeting on Wednesday, so we missed it, but we will have a meeting usually the third Wednesday of the month. So put it in your calendar, and the information is also in the website for all the meetings, okay?
I just want to say that I received a few phone calls about Mr. Matthew, and he's well known in the community and very positive. A lot of people speak very highly of him, and I think that he will be a great asset. Thank you.
Very good, thank you very much. Ms. Hoffman,
okay,
back here.
to continue, we have, Sheet Metal Technician Board. The appointee is Kirk Saylor. His term is 2021. Do I have any comments from my colleagues on the appointment of Kirk Saylor? Seeing none. Anything from the public? Seeing none, Mr. Hanlon, can you call for a vote, please?
Okay, on the appointment of Mr. Saylor, Mr. Grady,
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Ms. Moda.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Zuko.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Is that?
Yes. Is Mr. Saylor present? He's not. Well, congratulations anyway. All right, we have, the third one is for the Environmental Advisory Council. His name is Timothy, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's pronounced Deutsch. His appointment runs through 2020. This is for the Environmental Advisory Council. Do we have any comments on Mr. Deutsch's appointment? My colleagues seeing none. Anyone from the public? Seeing none, Mr. Hanlon?
On the appointment of Mr. Deutsch, Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Ms. Moda.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Zuko.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Zappa.
Yes.
Yes.
That is all we have. Is Mr. Deutsch here? Okay. That's it. Mr.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Moda. Mr. Hanlon, Bill 89.
Bill 89 amends the 2018 risk fund by transferring a total of $3,002,557 in the risk fund to cover employee health benefits, and authorizing the supplementation of risk fund at $2,417,790 and transferring $584,767.
Okay, before we go to the administration, I just have to correct, that was Ms. Atha, not Ms. Moda, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
We have an amendment for this.
Do you have an amendment?
Do you read the amendment?
Yes.
This is a big amendment. So this amendment will actually change section 1 and change section 2. So these are the more specific numbers that we had after you chatted about this at the human resource committee meeting. So it would take the money, section 1 would take the money from these accounts. 08, 102, 800, 106 premium pay. We take $457.57 from shift differential. We take $250 from insurance, property and casualty. $8,605.10 from property losses. $613 from auto losses. $63,879.54 from premium pay. $500 from flashback. $365.52 from memberships, $693 from training and professional development, $6,805 from insurance, other employee insurance, $1,606 and 46 other contract services, 7,157 and self-insured losses, $102,575 $1,055.92. That's a total of $194,063.65, and that would be transferred to the insurance dental life and drug account. That's 37. And then the second part of that would read as follows. The council authorizes, this would be section 2, a supplemental appropriation from the appropriate balance in the risk fund in the amount of $2,904,021.35, and that would be transferred to, again, the same account, 37, insurance, dental, life, and drug.
It's a $1,900,470.
Right. So at the last meeting, when we were talking about this, the administration was gonna get more specific accounts. These are the specific accounts. I would do that.
All right, any questions on the amendment from my colleagues? On the amendment?
Just, what percentage of that constituted the amount that was taken from the previous day?
It's a very good question, Mr. Grady. I am not sure in terms of what percentage that is. I will go back and take a look at it. I don't think that, it's coming out of the risk fund to begin with. It's not a general fund item. I think there was some anticipation that some of the people who were paid from the risk fund would take in a little more overtime than they had, and it turned out not to be the case, but I can get back to you on that.
Please, thank you.
Any other questions? So we're looking at $3,098,085?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Slight difference. All right, anything else from council? Anything else, anybody from the public? Seeing nobody, Mr. Hammer?
Okay, this is on the amendment, list all those specific accounts. Ms. Moda,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Zugal,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Zappa,
Yes.
Mr. Greedy,
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
President, 78.
Thank you. Bill 2, please.
We gotta do the bill last night.
Oh, okay. Bill 89 as amended. And that would, I erased it, but that was a total of 3 million. What was the exact figure? So we have that.
Yeah, let's bring it down to 2.904,021 plus 194,063.65.
Right. 3 million something, I had added it up, but, okay, 85 or 95, whatever it was. Okay. Total from the amendment.
Okay, this is on the bill itself as amended. Ms. Moda,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Don't we need to have public comment on the bill, the final bill?
you should, yes.
Okay. Just to clarify.
Okay. Good. Anybody from the public? On Bill 89, not the amendment, Bill 89.
James Whitney, 924 Walnut. This is the $3 million for the health cost overage, correct? And Mr. Hartzell said that he could have been more forthcoming with information regarding that overage in a previous meeting. And I would just like to encourage Mr. Hartzell to feel some healthy measure of shame that you weren't, and to allow that healthy measure of
Address
shame.
council. Address council.
I would like to encourage him in the future to be more forthcoming with that type of information while we're discussing the budget. Because I think it was shameful that that wasn't brought to us for discussion when he knew about it. So thank you.
Anybody else from the public? Seeing nobody, Mr. Hanlon.
Okay, so the bill as amended, we'll get back to that. Ms. Moda again.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Zuko.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Ms. Zappa.
Yes.
Mr. Greedy.
Yes.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
President, yes. 7 yeas and 2 nays.
Thank you very much. Now we can go to bill number 2.
Bill number 2 amends the 2019 capital fund budget to provide for supplemental appropriation of $250,000 for the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development to the city for the multimodal transportation fund grant for LED street lighting along the American Parkway from Union to Bradford Street.
Mr. Zuko, this was in your committee this evening?
Yes, sir, and it was, sent to the council.
Thank you very much. Anything else from the administration on bill 2? Any comments from council?
Just a quick comment. Is this part of, a whole, American Parkway, kind of, project, or is it only part of it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is part of an entire project that we requested for multimodal funds to go from Union Street all the way to Airport Road.
So it's included there.
Yes. This will get us around Front Street, Bradford Street area, and we requested a phase 3 to get us all the way out to to Airport Road.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else from council? Anybody from the public? Mr. Hanlon, bill 2, please.
On bill 2, Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Zuko.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Ms. Zappa.
Yes.
Mr. Greedy.
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Ms. Moda.
Yes.
President, 7 yeas, 2 nays.
Thank you very much. Bill number 3, please.
Bill number 3, again, amends the 2019 capital fund budget to provide for a supplemental appropriation of $250,000 from the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development for the city for the multimodal transportation fund grant for the Center City streetlights, the ADA ramp installation project.
All right, anything from the administration other than what we heard earlier? Thank you. Anything from council? Any comment from the public? Seeing nobody, Mr. Hanlon?
Mr. Zuko.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Ms. Zappa.
Yes.
Mr. Greedy.
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Moda.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
President, 7 yeas and 2 nays.
Thank you very much. Bill number 6, please.
Bill number 6. Bill number 6 amends the 2019 general budget to provide for supplemental appropriation of $146,784 from the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency as a pass-through grant to fund the Allentown True Violence Program that is being implemented by Office of
Mr. Hendricks, that was your committee. Correct?
Yes, that's correct. And it was forwarded with a favorable recommendation from the jury.
All right, thank you very much. Anything from the administration? Anything from council? Anybody from the public? You need to come up here. You know the drill.
Good evening, Council. My name is Milagro Canales. I'm the president of Fairgrounds. And I just wanted to say how happy I am that this money is finally being spent in our community. As you know, we view violence as a contagious disease. And in this day and time, unfortunately, we did have a tragedy that hit home. My son was the young man that was killed in the beginning of the year. And we did have a community conversation with the police. We had 184 people come out and talk with us about what we can do to help stop the spread of violence. And I want to say that with this bill, we hope to take that money and continue to build on it because we are fundraising for more money to get the community started in the conversation. I welcome you all to come out and do our community walks with myself and Dr. Hassan Batts, who is here. This starts here. You guys, you know, I'm very social. But we need to be a little more proactive. I feel that the city, this is a good first step, but this shouldn't be the only steps. There needs to be more in terms of proactivity from the city and the community. And I am willing to bridge that conversation with you guys as well as the rest. I have to say, my police department has stepped up, they really are on point with this. So I thank you. And normally I get 5 minutes, not 2 minutes. I'm a nonprofit, but I'm just saying, I don't really mean, thank you.
You were speaking for the group?
I speak always for the city.
Yeah, okay, please.
Hi, I'm Julie Thomases, 824 North Broad Street, Allentown, and I'm on the board of directors of Promise Neighborhood. And I just want to say that if you don't know exactly, Cure Violence is a proven model in reducing shootings, violent confrontations, and killings in multiple cities across the country. We need this program here, and Promise Neighborhood is the organization to make it happen here, so thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Dr. Bass.
I'll be brief. I just want to thank you guys for contributing to making the city safer, and also thank the mayor for his contributions, and also specifically thank Captain Grannis, who shows up to every event and every meeting that we have. Thank the police department for their contribution and the work that we're doing. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stefan Lassiter. I'm sorry. All right. I had a hat on supporting the movement that Allentown was a part of to zero youth violence. I was hired as a credible messenger to go out in the community and speak and engage with the youth in the community, and try to get these people to change their lives and show them the format that I had used to change my life, because I wasn't always perfect. So I was hired to get out here and engage with the youth. I have been doing a lot of community activities and meeting people and parents. And I'm just happy to be a part of the grant, and also to show the city of Allentown that we can change, and also to get some of these youth away from the gangs and away from the violence, and show them there's a better lifestyle there. And I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Thank you for being a part of it.
Pat Simpson, also part of the grant, operations director for this, and just want to talk about some of the things that happened. Like, we've been able to provide experiences for these youth that they wouldn't have gotten without this grant. We took 40 kids to their first hockey game. They got to get their jerseys. They got to feel what it's like to be outside of just the normal neighborhood. They got to feel like they're part of the city, and I know that this grant will allow us to continue to do such. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. You just remove your hat while you're up there.
Remove my hat?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, my name is Rodney Bush. I live on 1817 West Greenleaf Street. I want to also thank you guys for the opportunity for this grant. As we know, there's a lot of improvements around this issue. We know that just like every other issue, or many other issues, that's a curable disease that Allentown obviously has, and it's something that is needed. There's a lot of opportunities that Promise Neighborhood is bringing forth, circling around Allen High School, some of the elementary schools, and preparing our youth, instead of cradle to prison, be doing cradle to career. So once again, I want to thank you guys for that opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Great. Anybody else from the public? Seeing nobody, Mr. Hanlon.
Okay, on Bill 6, Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Is that on?
Yes.
Mr. Greedy?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
For the record, I would like to say that I work for the organization, and I would like to recuse myself from voting. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Zuko?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Bill number 7, please. It's for a good cause. We don't usually allow applause, but it's for a good cause. Every once in a while, we bend the
That
rules.
means that we can,
Yeah.
that means that we can clap.
Don't
Come on, guys.
All right, bill number 7, please.
Bill 7 amends the general fund budget by preserving an appropriation of $10,000 for the Pennsylvania drones to be utilized to document major accidents and execute crimes.
Mr. Hendricks, I believe that was your committee also?
Yes, it was, and was passed favorably by the committee to the full council, favorable recommendation.
Thank you very much. Anybody from council, or anybody from the administration? Good. Council? Anybody from the public? Mr. Hamlin? Mr. Hamlin, Bill 7.
Ms. Zappa?
Yes.
Mr. Grady?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mr. Boda?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Zuko?
Yes.
Mr. Lane?
Yes. Thank you very much. Bill number 8, please.
Bill number 8 amends the 2019 general fund budget to provide a supplemental appropriation of $150,000 for the United States Department of Justice for body worn cameras enhancement grant.
Thank you again, Mr. Hendricks.
Yes, and again, this was voted by the committee unanimously, and motion made to move forward favorably to the full council.
Thank you very much. Anybody else on council? Anybody from the public? Mr. Hamlin?
Okay, Mr. Grady?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Zuko?
Yes.
Mr. Lane?
Yes.
Zappa?
Yes.
That's unanimous.
Thank you very much. Bill number 9, please.
Bill number 9 amends the 2019 general fund budget to provide a supplemental appropriation of $55,700 of the United States Department of Justice for the purchase of 55 ballistic technical helmets, 4 portable radar speed signs, as well as $12,000 of the grant county towards the purchase of their drone camera.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hendricks.
This again was voted by the committee with a unanimous favorable recommendation to the full council.
Thank you very much. Anybody else from council? Anybody from the public? Mr. Hamlin, Bill 9, please.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Ms. Moda?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Ducal?
Yes.
Mr. Lane?
Yes.
Zappa?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
President, so it is unanimous.
Thank you very much. Bill number 10, please.
Bill number 10 amends Article 533, parking meters by authorizing the Allentown Parking Authority to fix, alter, charge, and collect parking rates and charges for on-street parking for specific locations.
And that was in committee earlier this evening. Committee of the whole, yes, it was recommended favorably to the full body. So any comments from council?
Mr. President, I'd like to make several amendments to this, please.
Okay.
And just for reference, Mr. Holbert, each of these would need to have its own individual second, correct? And voted on independently? Or would these be voted on as one whole amendment change?
You can make it all as one amendment.
One amendment? All right,
Yes.
excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Holbert. Amending, excuse me, I apologize. Amending section 533.03 to add the language after the word Sundays in the first sentence, when there is no event at the PPL Center. Amending section 533.17, section A, the beginning of the section, provided that city council is notified 30 days in advance of any rate change or as soon as practicable after the scheduling of an event at the PPL Center. Section B, adding at the beginning, city council must be notified 30 days in advance of any rate change, and such change shall be noted at the next available council meeting. All rate changes shall be posted on the Parking Authority's website and posted on their social media. And adding section C, which would state, the Parking Authority shall provide council with a written annual report on parking rate fee structures that will be distributed on a council agenda and referred to an appropriate committee for discussion. The report shall include procedures and rationale related to adjusting such fees. The start times and enforcement times shall be a part of this report. The report shall be sent to the full council for approval by resolution at a regularly scheduled council meeting. And I would ask if one of my colleagues would be willing to second the amendment to make those changes to the bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
I'll second that.
We got a few more changes.
I wasn't sure if we needed to add those or not, Mr. Hanlon.
That's what I'm thinking. We're gonna do the other ones.
Okay, could you, I don't have those marked, they were not marked on the amended bill. Could you read those into the record, please?
Okay, 3304, you're changing at the end, this is what Mr. Zeller talked about, you're putting in to get rid of the company language, except as set forth in section 53317, and then he was adding that down in 53308, and then adding that same thing over in 53399, under the second paragraph.
Yes.
I think that's it. Nope. 53317, you can go.
And I would include those changes in my motion as well.
You got the one not to exceed, this is amendment for Roger, so under A1, you got the, adding one to be a not to exceed $10 per hour.
Okay. Okay. And I would include those in my, as read by Mr. Hanlon, would include those in my motion for amendment.
And I'll consider to second it as such.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, any discussion on those amendments from council? Anybody from the public, if you have a clue what we were talking about?
I have a question.
No. Not any amendment, okay. We're on the amendments, that's right.
Okay, on the amendments, Ms. Moda,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Zuko,
No.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Ms. Appa,
Yes.
Mr. Greedy,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
that's a change in one name.
Thank you very much. Now we move on to Bill. Were you gonna make an amendment?
No.
We get it.
I have a discussion on it.
Yeah.
On Bill, all right, okay, now we move on to the bill as amended.
Correct.
Anything from council?
Yes, Your Honor.
Sir, Mr. Zuko.
Yes, Mr. President.
You're right.
I have a concern about, Ms. Appa and Mr. Hendricks voting on the, bill. They are members of the Parking Authority Board. Not that I don't think they're morally nice people, but I just think it presents a kind of an impropriety, you know, towards the whole, outlook of it.
May I make a comment, Mr. President?
I had actually a follow-up, Mr. Holder, if I'm not mistaken, is not at least one member of council actually a member of the Parking Authority Board from the beginning?
Yes, it's the.
It's a requirement of the ordinance.
Yes, no, not just the ordinance, it's the, excuse me, the state statute that creates the parking authority requires one member of council to be a member of the parking authority board.
So the assumption would be that the intention of the state law and also of our ordinance is that we intended to have members of council on the board and that they would vote on rate changes brought forward by Parking Authority Board.
I can't speak to if that was their intention per se, but.
It's allowed under the law.
It's possibly allowed, yes, it's up to the members, voting members to decide if they think they have a conflict as laid out in our administrative code or home rule charter. That's their decision to make.
And in our administrative code and the home rule charter, the main issue for conflicts of interest have to do with personal gain for the employee or elected official, similar to what Ms. Moda recused herself for in the previous vote that we had, because she works for the organization that was receiving the grant. That's the main intent of it.
That's the general overlay of our ethics code, correct? Is that votes are when either you, someone you're related to, or an organization you're involved in, personally, in a way for money, we'll say. It's been a long day. The idea being that's where our ethics code goes to.
And it is in both the state ethics code and in ours, it's up to the individual voting member to make that determination for themselves, correct?
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Holder. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Ms. Appa, you wanted to say something?
Well, I think you cleared that up. I mean, we were appointed to be basically a watchdog for the city. We're there to make decisions. We're on the board, and the main thing is to protect the city, to make sure that the parking authority everything is going the way it's supposed to, and that's what we're there for. And we may have actually no gain. I'll get a sandwich once in a while for lunch, but that's about it.
And you would say your part?
Oh, I must take a part.
And I would also assure my colleagues on council, Mr. Zuko, and the public that in my 41 years of service to this community as a police officer and a member of city council, that I will never do anything other than in an objective manner and what is best for the citizens of this city. So, rest assured. And I will be voting on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments from this side? Any comment from the public? Okay, no.
No, it's okay.
James Whitney, 94 Walnut. In the past, when the city has transferred authority from itself to an outside entity, has that worked out well for the city?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm worried about this, I'm worried about this bill. I'm worried because I don't think that people coming downtown who aren't aware that there's a hockey game are going to check the social media pages of the parking authority to see what the rates are for parking. And I think that if people visit downtown and they're not aware that there's a game and they end up getting charged event rate parking because they decided to stick around and check out our cool bars that we have downtown that we're encouraging people to check out, and then they feel, you know, like they should wait before they drive. And then they go back and they find out that they've got a $25 ticket and that they've been charged, you know, event rate parking. They're never coming back. They're never coming back downtown. So I'd just like to consider that. I don't think this is a good idea. I think it's a bad idea. Thank you. I know you'll consider it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else from the public?
I think we should clarify this, because we're not really transferring any.
No, we're not transferring any authority.
Yeah, authority, no, they already don't have.
And it actually gives the parking authority the ability to give free parking on non-event nights.
Non-event.
Which we now, we
And
don't.
after 5 o'clock every night.
Right, I think that's the biggest thing.
They're already not enforcing it after 5. They go home. So let's acknowledge that too, right?
Okay. What's that? Yeah. Okay. From now on, don't yell from back there. You know what, you know how to do it. All right,
Ms. Moda.
on the vote, on the bill as amended.
Are we allowed to say something else? Or we just need to vote? Of course, like I said before.
Already started the vote.
We started a vote?
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Zuko.
No.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Ms. Zappa.
Yes.
Mr. Grady.
Yes.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
President, 5 yeas, 2 nays.
All right, thank you very much.
R14 authorizes an encroachment for a meter kiosk installation at various locations on Hamilton Street.
Okay, so we're gonna be removing the parking meters and putting parking kiosks there, so. Yeah. Any comments from council? Mr. Robinson?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President. My question would be, when you look at the map in the application, in most blocks, there are 2 machines. In the 400 block of Hamilton, there's only 1 machine on the City Hall side. I'm sorry, excuse me. And my question is though, when you get to the 900 block of Hamilton Street, there are 4 machines. And I'm curious as to why in almost every other block, there's only 2 machines, but in the 900 block, there are 4.
As Mr. Zeller had stated earlier, it's gonna be a process as they go in. It'll be a process as they go in. Some of these are in the NIS, and some of them are not in the NIS, and we are funding.
And it's the very last page of the application for Hamilton Street, George, the last map.
what you'll see is, for the 900 block, there are four, the 900 block is the largest block on Hamilton Street. It actually
Okay.
probably has 30 to 40 meters, most of the other blocks have 12, 18. So we'll be more kiosks there, it's a longer block. And that's only that section of the block. If you go to the other part of the 900 block, there's two more. So we have 6 total, most of the blocks will have 4.
Okay.
When we get down into the 500 and the 400 block, that's where it starts to stop,
Right.
and it is stops. So then we're putting in the rest on ours. So this is
Okay.
Liz, going in first.
And any one of those machines in the 900 block, you can use for any parking space in pretty much, actually anywhere technically, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Once they're in throughout the city, where our only meters are, you can feed it any one. You could have walked past 2 or 3 of them, and you can say, I forgot that, you can go to the very next one, they all talk to each other. So once you put your plate in, you're paid no matter where you are.
Great. Thank you very much for the clarification. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick question. So they usually have like a number. Are they gonna have numbers and it doesn't matter, or how do you know what number it is?
It won't matter. This is so user friendly, it's gonna be your license plate. So when you go up to the kiosk, we also mentioned about 15 minutes free in the beginning. You go to the kiosk, you put your license plate in, you push the button, you get 15 minutes free. Wherever you park in the block.
Okay.
If you decide to stay longer, you'll pay for that time, but it doesn't matter if you're in that block and you wind up pulling down the 800 block, as long as you got a timer on your meter, you're paid, so you can park at any kiosk while you're time paid.
The kiosks, are they you already purchased them, or when are they coming?
Yeah, we've got 12 that are in that we're already programming and getting ready to put in, and we have another 22 coming that are part of the, his money, and we'll be purchasing more.
And the last thing is, you know, as most pointed out earlier, the educational part, so that, you know, making sure that people download the app in their phones or however, that's what I.
Well, and they have that now, that won't change, it'll be the
Right,
same
so the
app
same
level
app.
now,
Okay.
yes, that won't change. But the kiosk will help with the education also, besides just putting it out there on social media and our website, the kiosk will walk you through a 3-step process to.
And they have multi-language, in the kiosk as well.
Yes, it does, very good, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
How big is the screen that will tell people that they have an event night so that people don't get ticket?
The ones on the mall will have 2 screens, one for your parking and also one for public notices. And they are, I believe they're 3 by 5 or 6 by 8.
Almost as big as the screen that you're looking at right now, the one at the top. And they'll have 2 other screens on them. They'll have a sign space and another smaller screen below. So the monitor that you're looking at right now, it'll be about that size.
I believe in this packet, you actually have, there's an attachment.
Yes.
You can see 3 of them. There's an old style, but there's 3 of them sitting there. You can see the pictures.
So what are the forms of, so you're gonna put this on Facebook? What are your plans to let the community know about these changes?
Well, as they go in, they're gonna go in block by block. It's not a simple process. So as they go in the block, all the merchants in that block will have flyers made. We have our website, we'll have Facebook and Twitter. Besides being in the community on that block when they're going in. And the public will see it happening, because what'll happen is those kiosks will come out and all the meters will be removed.
Okay.
So if somebody, once a kiosk is there, somebody comes downtown to park, it's gonna say it's free, correct? Isn't that what I heard earlier?
Yeah, after 5, it'll.
If it is free at that point in time, yes, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, but we're concentrating in the word free, but the reality is, we have to know that there's a game, I mean, imagine when you come home from work and you're tired, you have to know if there's not a lot of people like coffee, not a lot of people can afford, to go to people, I mean, let's be honest, not a lot of people can afford PPL, to go and see a game.
I understand what you're saying, but I thought the conversation was about making sure that the people who are parking understand and know what's going on.
Thank you.
New kiosks will tell them that.
We just have to educate the public.
Anybody else from council? Anybody from the public? On R14? Mr. Hanlon.
On R14, 17, the kiosk on Hamilton Street, Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Zuko.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Ms. Zappa.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Moda.
Yes.
Thank you very much. R15.
R15 authorizes the appropriate computer kiosk installation at various locations in the center of Sisseton.
Pretty much the same we just went through. Any more questions or comments from council?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. George, it's a similar question on page 4 of the application. Looking at the map for South 7th Street, it shows 2 machines, both of them on the west side of the street. Is that going to mean that the east side will remain with meters for the time being, or that if you park on either side of the street, you have to walk over and use the kiosks?
There will be meters on the east side of the street, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
What we're doing here is we're timing it as construction's being done, and if sidewalks are being ripped up, they're gonna be being pulled out, and they're gonna be put in right away.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else from council? Anybody from the public on R15? Mr. Hanlon?
Mr. Zuko.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Ms. Zappa.
Yes.
Mr. Greedy.
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Ms. Moda.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
President of the yeas and no nays.
Thank you very much. R16, please.
R16 is, I think it's appropriateness for work in the historic districts at 317 North 8, 415 North Lumber, and 32 North Howard Streets.
Pretty much the same script. Any questions from council? Questions, comments from council? Questions, comments from the public? Seeing nobody, Mr. Hanlon, R16.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Ms. Zappa.
Yes.
Mr. Greedy.
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Ms. Moda.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Yes.
President of the yeas and no nays.
All right, thank you very much. R17, we need a motion to move that, or?
I'll read it to the record, and you want to send it to committee?
Yeah,
Want to do that?
committee of the whole.
All right, so I'll read it to the record. It recommends preserving the architectural and cultural value of the state hospital by recommending the introduction of a zoning amendment to include the property under the historic building demolition overlay district, having the state establish a covenant or deed restriction on the property to preserve architecturally significant structures prior to demolition and conveyance of the property. It recommends the state pursue listing the state hospital on the National Register of Historic Places, which will recognize the property's place in history and wealth, and will allow potential developers to use state and federal historic preservation tax credits to assist with development of the property.
Okay, very good. And, do we need to have a motion on that, or?
Yes, I would put a motion as the way it was listed on the agenda was for final passage, but I would be doing something else with that procedurally, make the motion and take the vote on the procedural motion.
I guess I can go to the motion on the floor to move it. Committee of the whole. Move it.
Move is on the agenda.
It's on the agenda.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah. I'll make the motion to move this to committee of the whole, Mr. President.
Very good.
I'll second.
Very good. We need to vote. Yes.
Okay, a motion to send this to the committee of the whole.
Just a point of order, Mr. Holbert, does this require public comment? Okay, thank you very much.
Ms. Zappa.
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Mr. Greedy.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Ms. Moda.
Yes.
Mr. Zuko.
Yes.
And Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
President passes.
Thank you very much. R18, please.
R18 recommends state pass legislation that would allow local jurisdictions to prohibit firearms at public meetings and municipal buildings, decreasing the chances of municipal workers and elected officials being shot and killed while performing their jobs.
Okay. Any comment from council? I think there's comment from public. If you're representing an organization, please state so, and you'll get 5 minutes. If you're an individual, thanks.
Got it up there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We have plenty.
Just that extra.
Explain to you.
go ahead.
Good evening, Council President, council members, and mayor's administration. My name is Eric Trimmer. I reside at 1324 South 12th Street, right here in Allentown. I am chairman of the Second Amendment Committee of the Lehigh Valley Tea Party. I and our 200-strong members fully and strongly oppose this resolution that violates both our constitutional rights and natural rights. Further, we will strongly oppose any council members or staff who support this resolution forever. We won't forget. I remind council that they took oaths to uphold both the U.S. and Pennsylvania constitutions. This includes the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution and Article 1, Section 21 of the Pennsylvania Constitution. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court in Commonwealth versus Ortiz in 1996 held that municipalities are precluded from regulating firearms and ammunition pursuant to Article 1, Section 21 of the Pennsylvania Constitution. Furthermore, pursuant to Article 1, Section 25 of the Pennsylvania Constitution, everything within Article 1 is accepted out of the general powers of government and shall forever remain inviolate, thereby even precluding the General Assembly pursuant to Article 1, Section 21 from questioning the right of the citizens to bear arms in defense of themselves. Presumably, people who desire firearms to not be allowed in council meetings believe making council meetings a gun-free zone will make us safe. But the reality is, most mass shootings occur in gun-free zones. Gun-free zones only disarm law-abiding citizens, making them targets for criminals. If only we had a law against murder wouldn't happen, right? Although murder has been unlawful since the inception of this great country, criminals commit criminal acts, including murder, in defiance of existing laws. The only thing protecting you from a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. I remind the public to carefully read the wording of this resolution. Notice how it only concerns the safety of municipal workers and elected officials, not the public. Whose true interest does the council have in this resolution? The people they were elected to serve, or their own? I advise the council to tread lightly on the rights of others.
James Whitney, 924 Walnut. I noticed in the resolution as written, it says, quote, Allentown City Council believes a majority of citizens are downright astonished and appalled that persons can walk into public meetings with firearms, let alone go about parading in municipal offices. I'd just like to know what statistics or polls you used to judge that 51% of Allentonians felt a feeling of astonishment or appalling. Was there a poll or a statistic that you guys used to come up with that number? Because if it's not backed up by factual data, then I think that it should be changed to Allentown City Council feels a majority. Because a belief not backed up by reality and facts is called a feeling. The other thing I'd like to address is that twice in this resolution, it refers to people exercising their Second Amendment rights as parading around. And I would like to, for City Council just to consider that that language is not respectful and that common sense gun legislation does not include disrespecting people who exercise their Second Amendment rights. It's not parading around to carry a firearm. If you do, at some point, go forward with creating a gun-free zone at City Council, please consider that you'll have to secure the building the way that the FBI does, the county does, the court does, to make sure that no guns enter the premises. Because with no legal guns allowed on the premises, all the honorable people are going to leave their guns at home. And the only people bringing guns into these buildings will be dishonorable people. So just take into consideration those things. And again, can anybody tell me a statistic or a poll that you used to determine that 51% of Allentonians felt a feeling of astonishment or an appalled feeling that people can walk in with firearms?
One of the sponsors.
who wrote the resolution? Because I did notice also the resolution uses the first person, it says I in the resolution. Who wrote this?
The resolution was written by the deputy clerk, so. Yeah, oh, you were, yeah. Most of them were done by the clerk.
So was there a poll or a statistic used to come up with the idea that the majority of Valentinians feel appalled?
I don't have an answer to that.
Until you do, you should table the vote. I mean, I'm not trying to come down on you too hard here, but when we're talking about a resolution that's going to limit people's constitutional rights, we need to be respectful in how that resolution is worded, and this resolution is not worded respectfully. The term parading around is not fair, it's not right. Nobody paraded around here with a firearm. So we should change that language tonight, right now.
Enough with the applause.
Mr. President, if I may speak here, just so you realize, we do not have the authority to make the laws. This is nothing more than a resolution requesting that the state take action. So let me make that very clear. This is not some action that we can take, and we recognize that. It's nothing more than a resolution encouraging the state powers to take such action. And we're asking for nothing more than what already happens in most school buildings and courthouses throughout the Commonwealth, including the state capitol, where you cannot carry a weapon. So, thank you.
Can we just kind of hold off until we get the public and then we can go back to us? Okay.
Mr. President, members of council, thank you. I'll agree. Benjamin Franklin is quoted as saying, "Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor security." The right to carry a firearm is a constitutional right recognized by the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. While this body has no legal authority under either law.
The gun is a tool. The gun does not kill anyone, it's the people that do. We already have plenty of laws that I'm sure a lot of people here can argue with me that are unconstitutional by in and of itself that limit the carry of weapons and firearms. So I will say, as a conservative and as number one as an American, I know this is not a law you're trying to pass in the city of Allentown, but you're trying to push this in the state. I understand that. You explained it very well. If you actually push this into the state, a lot of people in Allentown and in Pennsylvania as a whole are not going to be very happy with limiting the rights of the people for just a little bit of safety. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jim Lee.
Hi, how are you? Kristen Churchill, there's on 45 Mechanicsville Road, Whitehall. I'm also here on behalf of the Heller Foundation. I am an attorney, and I'm also a victim of domestic violence. A year ago, every time I say this, it should get easier, but it's not. About a year ago today, the man that I was about to marry kind of went too far. And I didn't know what to do. I played Division I ice hockey. I run Reebok Spartan Races Elite. I'm the #2 ranked in the world. I thought, no worries, I can handle it. And so I couldn't. And then this happened. A week later, came out of the hospital, no worries. I don't need a gun. I'm conservative, but I didn't grow up around hunting or anything like that. And then this happened. That's brain matter. So please, I beg you, if you have daughters, wives, any female in your family, please, a gun is the greatest equalizer known to men, right? I was an ice hockey player. I could bench press, no offense, probably more than all of you combined. I thought I could handle myself, but unfortunately I couldn't. So please, I beg you, reconsider passing this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sir.
Craig Christiano, Upper Black Eddy, member of the Lehigh Valley Tea Party. Resolution is a big step. And generally, I understand that you pass them if there's a need. I don't see a big need to have this resolution passed. I don't see an immediate threat. I was very touched when Mr. Corretti, the Vice President, mentioned that we have a big need for road work, for more police. Worried about where the money's coming from. If you go into the state to make the state change, that's a cost. You passing a resolution here affecting anywhere costs money, even if it's 10 cents. I believe you're wasting the taxpayer money. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening.
My name is Scott Brown, I'm also part of the Second Amendment Committee on Lehigh Valley. And we were gonna be planning when you had that snowstorm, the last council meeting, I understand this was gonna be brought up. Ironically enough, and I saw the morning call I had like that Sunday before your last meeting. A man just about 10 blocks from here, Antonio Santiago, got out of his car and he was attacked by two men and a woman. He was pepper sprayed directly in the face, and then they had a butt of a gun. Smashed him in the face with it. They were saying a robbery. Okay. Fortunately for him, he was a legal, law-abiding, and a well-trained citizen with a concealed carry permit. He pulled out his 9mm, he was able to get it out and defend himself. Shot the one man, he ended up dying, and stopped the other two from attacking him. I can't imagine doing that with pepper spray in your face or anything like that. That he could do that is fine. I understand with this area with mass shootings and things like that, and our media is very one-sided. But as before me said, you know, a firearm, when you're well-trained, it's not just bullets flying. I do basic pistol instruction if people want to learn how to get into it and understand the law. I've also been at 37 Pennsylvania gun law seminars, so I also teach the law. You have nothing to fear by well-trained, legal, law-abiding citizens with a firearm. Many of us here are not. We're not a threat at all. And if a bad person with a gun, they wouldn't listen to a state law anyway. But if they came in, I'd be willing to bet most of us would stand between them and you know, until the police arrived, or in this case, we have one law enforcement was here for it and council here. But I would just say when everything comes to firearms, you know, there are about 2,000 legal uses of a firearm every day in the defense of an innocent person. And in spite of the hysteria, firearms are actually in the hands of a legal, law-abiding citizen is a very good deterrent to crime and a great defense. And, you know, any type of firearms law that would restrict Mr. Antonio Santiago from having a firearm, he would be seriously maimed or probably dead. And that's the reality. You can sit in a little council meeting or anything like this and make your, you know, certain rules, but there's real people like one of your own residents here, just 10 blocks from here, that had to face this just a few weeks ago on February 19th. So again, I would ask that you seriously consider just that side of the issue when you bring up anything like this. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, thank you for the time. My name is Melissa Gallagher. I'm from Easton, Pennsylvania. I am also with the Lehigh Valley Tea Party. Everyone before me have brought up very, very good points and a lot of statistics. And the one thing that I pulled off today, I looked to see what criminal homicides, sex offenses, robbery, assaults, property offenses, drug violations from 2017 to 2018. These are from the Uniform Crime Reporting Unit in Harrisburg, PA. And for Allentown City, the rates on everything are dropping and have dropped. So again, with need, I don't see a huge need for something like this. Whereas the biggest thing seems to be total property offenses of 9,799 offenses in the city of Allentown, whereas criminal homicide were 15. So if you want to put your focus on maybe a greater need, that seems to me like that would be a tremendous need. The other thing is, when you do put up a gun-free zone, that's like putting a target on anyone who's in that particular zone. If you ask any criminal, why do they target, why do they choose who they're going to rob or who they're going to assault? They're looking for the easiest victim. They're looking for the easiest target. And if they were to walk into a room with anyone who's carrying, they're gonna think twice, because there's somebody there that might shoot back. It's very rare that you're gonna see criminals walk into a police station and shoot at a police station. They're choosing wisely. They're choosing the path of least resistance. And it's the same with all of your homes. Do any of you put big signs out that says, my home is a gun-free zone? Probably not, because that's going to encourage criminals. There's nobody there that's gonna shoot at me. There's nobody that's going to resist. They're going to look for the places. People who don't have dogs, another thing, or people who are elderly, or a single mother, or somebody who's maybe not gonna cause so much of a resistance. I'd urge you to think twice about this particular resolution. You may think it's just a resolution, but it's just another step down that road. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Sir.
Joel Marati, Lehigh County resident. I would urge all of you that before you pass a resolution subverting the rule of law that is our Constitution that protects our rights, that you all exercise your right, if you worry about your safety, and carry into this same room that you want to eliminate those firearms from.
Thank you. When you get up to the
I'd like to have 5 minutes as I represent the organization.
Would you just name the organization, please? I see it in
I'll
writing.
do that. My name is Fritz Walker. I live at 2552 Covered Bridge Lane in South Whitehall. I am also representing Ceasefire PA, Pennsylvania's largest gun violence prevention organization, which I serve as board secretary. I want to thank Council President McLean and the other members of council for allowing me the opportunity to offer words in support of Resolution 18. I offer special thanks to council members Affa, Garidi, Hendricks, Moda, and Robinson for sponsoring this resolution, which is designed to protect the very lives of Allentown's residents and, importantly, its employees. The reasons for the resolution are made clear in the resolution itself. Pennsylvania's firearms preemption laws currently prevent municipalities from banning possession of firearms in municipal buildings. And we all know that in municipal buildings at meetings like this, tempers flare. And tempers flaring and guns combined is not a good situation. The recent Paradise Township shooting drives home how city employees are at risk from gun-wielding citizens upset by an enforcement officer or tax collector, while the 2013 Ross Township Supervisors meeting shooting exemplifies the danger residents attending public meetings can be placed in by angry gun-toting malcontents. My friend Linda Kozik was severely wounded in this incident. Her life was shattered, and she lost her husband and soulmate Jerry that evening. So this is quite personal for me. When word of this resolution became public, several gun rights advocacy organizations, including Pennsylvania Firearms Owners Association and Firearm Owners Against Crime, urged their supporters to come to this meeting carrying their firearms and protest what they characterize as an assault on Second Amendment rights. And it is that issue I'd like to address. Simply put, banning firearms from government buildings does not infringe the Second Amendment. This is not my opinion. It's the opinion of the very conservative Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia, as expressed in his 2008 District of Columbia v. Heller opinion, which actually significantly expanded the scope of Second Amendment rights. After affirming the limited right to possess an operable handgun in one's own home for the purpose of self-defense, Justice Scalia went on to outline common sense limitations on the right to keep and bear arms. He stated, like most rights, the right secured by the Second Amendment is not unlimited. From Blackstone through the 19th century cases, commentators and courts routinely explained that the right was not a right to keep and carry any weapon whatsoever in any manner whatsoever and for whatever purpose. Nothing in our opinion should be taken to cast doubt on laws forbidding the carrying of firearms in sensitive places such as schools and government buildings. Nor is there any reason to believe that such a law would be unconstitutional in light of the Pennsylvania Constitution's protections to keep and bear arms. As is the case at the federal level, Pennsylvania courts have and continue to uphold many sensible limitations to this right that guard public safety. It is true that under Pennsylvania's current preemption law, such a ban cannot lawfully be enacted. But Allentown City Council is taking a responsible approach, not by threatening to disobey the law, but by petitioning our state legislature to change the law. You do this to protect the lives of your residents and your employees. We at Ceasefire PA thank you for having the courage to do so. In the near future, Pennsylvania House Representative Carolyn Comita of Chester County will be introducing legislation to allow municipalities to ban firearms in municipal buildings. And your efforts place you in the vanguard of efforts to build the support necessary to pass this important legislation. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to address this important issue.
Thank you. Sir?
Hi, good evening, President.
Could you just state,
President,
could you
and
just state your
members.
name and where you're
Okay,
located?
and my name is Jake Stofko. I live at 1040 South 12th Street in Allentown. And I'm up here, gun-free zones are danger zones. This meeting, I feel much safer in because of the protection we have here. I'm not a good speaker, but I don't know how many people here have a carry permit. How do you feel in your homes? In your home, do you feel safe? Would you put a sign on your home saying, no guns, a little circle with the line through it, with the no guns? I know when I go to the mall or somewhere, I see that sign, I don't feel comfortable there at all. I know at the South Mall in Allentown, on the back door, they have a sign that says gun-free zone. In the front door, they don't. I always go through the front door, but I mean, and also, the safety of you people are very important, but also for us, somebody comes in here, and is it gun-free zone, we have no protection. I think there's a police officer back there, but, you know, you need to reconsider this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. you were up here already, right?
Yes.
Sorry.
Can I respond to Mr. Hendricks real quick, because?
No.
Yeah, he responded to me, but I was already back there, and you said not to yell, so can I please respond?
No,
Why not?
because you were up here.
Well, yeah, and you looked at me like a Jackson Pollock painting until I left, and then again, you responded after I left, and I'd like to, if, with respect, respond to what Mr. Hendricks said.
It's enough.
Speak to me after the meeting.
Yeah. I let everybody stand up here and talk, okay, so that's enough.
Yeah, and you sat there silently while I talked, asking you for answers. Thank you.
I let people
No,
say
that's
their
great.
piece, that's what it's for.
No, I get it, thank you.
Sir.
Hello. Hello, my name is Robert Kornicki. Robert Kornicki, I live in North Whitehall Township. I think there's one important point that's being missed here. If you go onto the State Attorney's General website, there's a book of Pennsylvania's firearm laws. It's 149 pages. And if you add another page, make it 150, if you add 50 pages, you get to 200. Those who operate outside the law I don't care how many pages are in the book or even what the book says. They're just gonna act on their own will, regardless of what's going on, what the law says. I mean, the definition of an outlaw is somebody who operates outside the law. It makes no difference to them. The other thing is that, a resolution asking the state to change is like somebody else said, another step down the road of unsafe conditions for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ladies first.
My name is Danielle Scott. I live at 1815 West Liberty Street in Allentown here. I just want to say that we are not New York. We are not New Jersey. We don't want to be New York. We don't want to be New Jersey. We don't want restrictions. We are Pennsylvania. Many of us grew up with guns. We grew up hunting. We grew up shooting. It's a way of life here. We don't want restrictions. We don't support restrictions. Many of us vote based solely on this issue and heavily on this issue. So I would just like you guys to remember that this is affecting a lot of people in a big way, and it can affect you guys too, so. We don't take this lightly, and we don't support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'm sorry, Lord. Okay.
Thank you. 814 Walnut Street. Under normal circumstances, the Lehigh Valley Tea Party and I stand on opposite ends of the spectrum, but on this case, I'm going to support them fully. What I'm about to read to you is an entry in a dictionary that was published in 1750. And before I read this, I want you to remember the last 4 words of the Second Amendment: shall not be infringed. To infringe, B-A infringe, action. To violate, to break laws or contradict is the first section. And in the second, to delfroy, if I'm reading that word right, or to hinder. Please keep that in mind when you're debating about this resolution. And I'm going to go one step further. Now, I don't recall recently, I've been studying other things for the past 18 months since I got my sight back. But a time once was that I remember reading that Kennesaw, Georgia, had passed a law more or less requiring citizens to carry a firearm on their side. There were exceptions for conscientious objectors as well as the criminally convicted. And it was my impression at the time that Kennesaw, Georgia was one of the safest places in the land because of that law. Please think about that when you're debating. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing nobody else?
Yeah, there's one more person.
Shelby Edwards, 924 Walnut Street. I'd just like to echo what James came up to say, and he really wanted to address the way that the wording was in the document that's about to be sent to the state. And I feel the same way, that it should be worded professionally because we're sending it directly to the state. I want our city to look the best that it possibly can. No matter what you choose, both James and I agree that you should look at that document again through a professional filter and make sure that it doesn't have first-person language and anything that could be characterized as disrespectful towards people that do hold the Second Amendment right. And James doesn't oppose submitting this resolution, just for the record. And I think he will take you up on that conversation after, Daryl. So thank you for what you guys do. James opposes submitting any resolution that uses disrespectful language to describe someone exercising the right. So I agree. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else from the public? All right.
Hi, my name is Scott from Susquehanna Street in Allentown. One thing that wasn't pointed out, there's a lot of good information given out tonight about it. No one addressed is the workplace violence. Good example of the tragedy in Florida. Police they stayed outside. They didn't go in until enough kids got killed. By preventing a law-abiding citizen like us, your coworkers from being able to defend you, or the next person, I'm sorry, I have complete respect for the law, but we play cleanup most of the time. The only person who can stop it when it's happening is yourself. If you take that as an option away, you're gonna be just like everyone else. When someone ignores the gazillion laws, both in the good book and the legal book, it's on you. You're gonna be the one in the corner, or the chalk outline. Well, the police, if they show up or come in, it's gonna be too late. So it's better to keep it at full access for the public, or yourselves, to be able to carry, protect yourselves, than it is to shut everybody out and just wait for someone coming in who's disgruntled for whatever reason to work for the Republic and do what they want until someone thinks about coming in, rather than you're ready there that you can take the action upon yourself there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Oh, Miss.
Hi, my name's Aaron Moretz. I'm on Nest, Pennsylvania, and I just want to point out to you, I'm not going to come here and offer any opinions. I walked right in here, there's no security posted. Just gonna let you leave it with that.
Thank you, sir. All right, Ms. Affa, you wanted to make a point?
I'd like to ask the people here that are bearing arms, do you go into our courthouse with your arms? Do you go into federal buildings with your guns? Why do you think that is? Why do you think that you're not allowed in these buildings with your guns? Mr. Walker pointed something out, that this is how my colleagues and I feel. Tempers do get flared in here. We've had the officer escort people out on several occasions. We're very vulnerable up here, and I think, Mr. Hanlon, you did do some type of survey where there were community building, venues like this that people were shot and hurt. There were pretty many of them, I understand. That's the point. We're not taking your guns away from you. I don't care what you're carrying on the street. We feel vulnerable up here. I think that the entire city hall itself, people are upset with taxes, people are upset with things, people are upset with how we rule. That's what we're trying to say. We're not trying to take your guns away. Believe me, that's the reason they don't have them in federal buildings. I'm speaking, you all have your chance to speak. Please sit down. This is why the federal buildings and our courthouse, you can't walk in the courthouse with a gun. but you can come into city council and be armed in here. This is what we don't want. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else from council?
Yes. Aside from my remarks, which I plan to make, even before Mr. Whitney had gotten up, I agree with you that this was language that shouldn't have been in here. There's actually an issue where this is a draft copy, which is why there's language at the end of it that's not actually part of the resolution. So I was planning from the beginning to make an amendment to clean that up, but I do agree with you, Mr. Whitney, this stuff does have to come across in the right way. So, but I would like to make an amendment to change in the 6th whereas, to simply state that whereas the presence of firearms can intimidate others and prevent open dialogue, semicolon, and also remove the 8th whereas, which is that Allentown City Council believes the majority of citizens are downright astonished, the exact provision that Mr. Whitney spoke of. So an amendment to adjust the language in the 6th whereas and to remove the 8th whereas, and I would ask for a second from one of my colleagues to adjust that language. Thank you, Mr. Green.
We have a second by Mr. Green. I think we have a second by Mr. Green.
6 and the last.
All right, if you could, Mr. Robinson, can you read what you want to read? It's whereas?
Sure. So in the 6th, it currently states, whereas public meetings are a place where tempers flare and residents parading around with firearms not only is unacceptable to us, but can intimidate others and prevent open dialogue, semicolon, and the language that I would propose would simply state that whereas the presence of firearms can intimidate others and prevent open dialogue, semicolon, and.
I don't think it's hindered any dialogue tonight.
Well, we don't know for certain, though. But I would ask my colleagues to support this amendment. Thank you, Mr. President. And then on the regular resolution, I do have some comments.
Okay, now we're on the amendments. So amendments. Any comments? Any comments from the public on the amendment? Seeing none,
I'd just like to say thank you to Courtney, and also to remind you that I believe there are 2 places where the word parading is used. I believe that your amendment should include changing the word parading to walking.
If I am correct on this, Mr. Whitney, and the second whereas, the second area where it says parading is actually the whereas that we're completely removing.
Okay, so nowhere in this resolution will it say parading?
Correct.
Great.
Correct.
Thank you.
And the language that is after where it says be it further resolved is not actually language of the resolution. That was stuff that was draft that was included.
Great. Thank
Yes,
you
so
very
both of those instances are being removed from the resolution.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
anybody else from the public on the amendments? Yeah, so seeing nobody on the amendments,
There's one amendment where Mr. Rob's read last whereas he had stuff at the end, after the further resolve and a copy of the resolution. He said that was actually notes.
Correct.
Yeah, so we had problems copying, saving stuff. Just trying to make it a little archaic. Okay, on the amendments, Ms. Apple?
Yes.
Mr. Greedy?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Ms. Moda?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Zuko?
Yes.
Rick Light?
on the amendments, yes. All right, now we're back to the bill as amended. Correct. All right.
Questions? I mean,
We already
comments?
did.
No, for the amendments. Go ahead, you have.
No, please, I insist, because it won't be relevant if no one else speaks.
Okay, if I may?
Go ahead.
Thank you. You know, I'm not opposed to the second amendment, I want to make that clear. I actually don't mind if you want to, where you're going anywhere else. I think we are, and I have a permit myself, okay, so it's not that I'm against guns. The issue for me is, as Ms. Appa, Councilwoman Appa pointed out, if I go to the courthouse, I don't have to, I mean, I couldn't carry an arm there. I couldn't carry a gun. If I go over to the government center, I couldn't carry a gun. If I go to school, usually, usually they don't allow it, they have something, but, particularly the places that I travel the most in Allentown is the courthouse and also the government center. And I've never seen anybody, in the airports, by the way, I've never seen anybody, not wanting to give up their guns or put them away or carry it inside. People are okay doing that. And I think what you say is very important in regards to how vulnerable we are. And it's the case that happened in a town in Pennsylvania, forgetting what the town is, that they shot a couple of council members. And when I saw that was about 5 years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago. And I saw that and said, my wife said, and my kids were watching this, and they actually were scared. You're a council member, look what's happening to them, and you're safe in there. And I said, the majority of the people that we get are not really violent. Well, there are some. And I myself, when I was president, had to get 2 people out of here because of the way they were behaving. And I had to get, luckily, we have a police officer. And I think the public that comes here, some of you say, well, we're gonna save you. We're gonna be between you and whoever is outside. Well, guess what? There won't be any, because they're not gonna bring the gun here. So that point is actually smooth. There won't be anybody carrying a gun in here if the state passes a law. So you don't have to get yourself in harm's way because you carry a gun. You don't have to protect us because there's no gun here. So those points, I understand them, I believe them. I know that the majority of the people who carry guns are well-respected people and they don't violate the laws, but there are people who do. And we're not worrying about you. This gentleman comes over almost every meeting and he's here with a gun. I don't know you from anywhere. I talk to you, but I don't know what you're thinking in your head. I don't know if you're watching me and thinking, I'm gonna shoot you. Obviously, you're not gonna do that. Yeah, but, what was that? Yeah, no, yeah, I'm sorry for using your name, but I'm just saying in general, okay? So, it's an issue that concerns most of us here. And I think if we don't have any guns, we don't have to carry that concern. In here, in the public, we're not saying outside, we're not saying anywhere else, we're not saying in your home, we're not anywhere else. I have a gun, I have it in my house. Now, in my business, my wife had a business, and somebody came over, and with a 7-inch knife, put a knife on her throat, asked for the money, and she had an employee. Early in the morning, my kid was actually in a crib in the back of the business. And we felt really bad about it. And I said, you know what, we're gonna go over and buy a gun. Okay, and we did. My wife never wanted to use it, to carry it, I'm sorry. But I do feel a little safer having a gun in my house. But this is not my house, it's a public building, a lot of people are here. And because of that reason, I chose to co-sponsor this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. First and foremost, I can't speak for any of my colleagues, but I can say there's been a number of people who've come up and talked about how a gun-free zone isn't safe, and one gentleman talked about how he just walked in the building. I can say for myself, it's my intention that if the state would pass legislation to allow municipalities to do this, that we would establish a security perimeter on the building and have a metal detector at our one point of entry. We have a responsibility to the citizens that come to these meetings. We have a responsibility to the employees that work for the city at all times, in all of our buildings, to make sure that we are providing a safe environment. And quite frankly, that's one of our top priorities. This is not about any type of restriction of the Second Amendment other than is reasonable. As was read into the record by Mr. Walker from DC v. Heller, the United States Supreme Court, which for the last 20 years has not been what anyone would refer to as a liberal body, has stipulated that government buildings are an acceptable place to limit access to firearms. And as Ms. Offa said, as Mr. Grady said, the courthouse, the government center, airports, the state capitol, as Mr. Hendricks spoke about, the US Capitol. These are reasonable places to assume that it is not an appropriate place to carry a firearm. And it was brought up by one of our speakers, I forget which one exactly, that, you know, an area that has a lot of guns is somewhere that's not going to have someone come in. Well, I don't know if anyone read this resolution, but we had an incident a few months ago where someone walked into our police station and pointed a gun at one of our police officers through bulletproof glass. So I'm sorry, but there are instances where this occurs. Allentown is one of them. I think that a reasonable and rational discussion can be had. And I would thank everyone that came here this evening and spoke on this issue. We may disagree on what the appropriate course of action is, but this is what civil discourse is supposed to look like. Everyone having a reasonable and a rational conversation about where they stand and what they believe to be true. So I want to thank each and every one of you for coming here. I co-sponsored this, I intend to support this, but I appreciate that you took the time to come here and express your views. As I would feel the same way in going to another meeting and expressing my views as a citizen of this country. So I thank you for coming out. I simply think that this is an appropriate step to take, that we see this in many municipal buildings throughout the country, that being able to limit the access of not just firearms, but all weapons through a metal detector and security perimeter system is an appropriate thing for employees, for citizens, for elected officials, for everyone that has to interact with the government. And I would ask my colleagues to please support this bill, and I'm hopeful that the state legislature will give serious consideration to the bill that is going to be introduced and consider changing this, because of the many municipalities that have had incidents like this, unfortunately, far too many are in Pennsylvania. So, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Anybody else in council? I just want to say one thing to Mr. Robinson. You have a good argument, and I think your points are well taken. I just don't feel that an ordinance would have stopped that person from coming in to the police department and pointing that gun. And there are laws against it.
Oh, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, Mr. President, but I will say that the fact that they couldn't get to any of the officers because they were behind a secure perimeter was an extreme reason as to why that situation was resolved peacefully.
Exactly.
And that's what I would like to see us able to do for City Hall. Yes.
Okay. Okay, seeing nobody else. Mr. Hanlon.
On the resolution, Ms. Appa? Yes. Mr. Grady?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Ms. Moda?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Zuko?
No.
Mr. McLean?
No.
President, I have 5 yeas and 2 nays.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate all of you coming in here tonight, so thank you. R19, Mr. Robinson.
R19 requests the Secretary of General Services hold a public forum in East Allentown to listen to the concerns of the residents and explain the process. The Department of General Services is using to determine the foundation of construction of the property. Also, this forum should discuss that the purpose is the final decision. What will be the impact on the east side of Allentown, the time frame of that type of
Mr. President, I'll make a motion, since we forwarded the other resolution to a committee of the whole, to forward this resolution to the same committee. And I would second that.
I would think that would be reasonable, so we'll have. Okay. R19 will be going to the committee of the whole with the other state hospital resolution. Okay, we have ordinances for introduction. Bill number 11, please.
Number 11, amends the capital fund, provide for supplemental appropriation, $300,000 for the Commonwealth.
Okay, Mr. Zuko, that's going to go to you. Any comment from council? Any comment from the public? Seeing none, Bill 12, please.
Bill 12 amends the solid waste fund budget for supplemental appropriation of $800, so it's
That's also going to go to you, Mr. Zuko. Any comment from council? From the public? Okay, Bill
$1,812.70 to cover legal fees and negative balances of permanent wages and salaries.
Okay, Tom, I think that's yours, right? No. Appointment Human Resources, yeah? Any comment from council? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, Mr. Hanlon, Bill 14, please.
Bill 14 amends the Trexler Fund budget and the capital fund budget to transfer $230,000 from the unappropriated balance of the Trexler Fund to the 2019 capital fund project number 2209 Max Pool Improvements for repairs of the pool house roof.
Ms. Moda, that will be yours.
Thank you.
Any comments from council? Any comments from the public? On Bill 14. Seeing none. Bill 15,
Bill
please.
15 amends the capital fund budget to provide for supplemental appropriation of $2,500 from AERP to assist with the purchase of benches and shade structures for the Dixon Street.
Ms. Moda, again, that will go to you. Any comments from council? Any comments from the public? Seeing none. Bill 16, please.
Bill 16 amends the capital fund budget to provide for supplemental appropriation of $250,000 from the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for developing a plan for the renovations of the Andre Reed Park for the pool house and other related site improvements.
Okay, Ms. Mota, that one will be yours also. Any comments from council?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none. Bill 17, please.
Bill 17 amends the 2019 capital fund budget to provide for supplemental appropriation of $35,000 from the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for developing a master site plan.
Again, Ms. Moda, I think it'll be to Ms. Moda until we change it. So, any comments from council? Any comments from the public on Bill 17? Seeing none, Mr. Hanlon, Bill 18.
Bill 18 amends the capital fund budget to provide for supplemental appropriation of $25,000 from the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for developing a master site plan for Percy Roof Park.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Moda,
Yes, thank you, Mr. President.
any comments from council? Any from the public? By the way, I'm on that committee, so I'll be there with you. All right, Mr. Hanlon, Bill 19.
$300,000 supplemental appropriation as a result of a grant from the Conservation and Natural Resources as well for the construction of a skate park at Trump.
Guess where that's going. Any comments from council? From the public? Seeing nobody. Bill 20, please.
20 amends the licensing residential unit section 1759.99 and Article 1766.99 fees and penalties, resales inspection of residential properties and units by adding a fee of $100 for canceling a scheduled inspection less than 48-hour notice for the first three units and $25.
It's like one of those certain questions you get on a test where they throw it in, it goes all parts of rec, now it goes to Mr. Robinson.
Thank you very much,
Any
Mr. President.
comments from council? Any comments from the public? Seeing nobody. Bill 21, please.
Bill 21 amends the 2019 capital fund budget by supplemental appropriation of $50,000 to the grant from the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for professional services to design the construction docks and lighting systems to build a portion of the Allentown section of the trail on the one from First Street.
All right, we're back to Ms. Moda.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Any comments from council? Anybody from the public? Seeing nobody. Bill 22, please.
Bill 22 amends zoning map in the city of Allentown by rezoning parcels at 1811 South Glenwood Street from E4 Shopping Center business to I2 industrial zone.
We'll go to Mr. Robinson. Any comments from council?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Any from the public? Seeing nobody. Resolutions for introduction, we have none. Any new business? Seeing none. Good and welfare?
Mr. President, just something for the good and welfare, I would just like to, offer congratulations to Mr. Hanlon on the date of his 30th anniversary of employment with the city, and Mr. Hendricks, congratulations on the date of his 41st anniversary of working for the city.
All right, can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, thank you. The meeting is adjourned.
Right.